Yeah, no, doing an in-person podcast is so much better because you get the vibe, you can get the emotions, you get like you're in it. You feel in it.
Oh my God, I completely agree. This is totally different and I love it so much already.
Yeah, I've done a lot of Zoom ones. Some of my really like favorite episodes have been through Zoom or like just online.
Oh yeah.
But I don't know. There's something about just doing them in person that's way better. What was that? Oh, that was my phone. I'm sorry.
Oh gosh. I think I need to get like really good video quality too. And it's really hard, I think, on Zoom, but I just need a better webcam, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, if you just get like a simple camcorder or something, it'll work. I even just bought another camera. I think I have it in here. I could show you afterwards.
Okay.
And that would work really well too.
Nice.
But,
cool.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I mean, we live in a time where like creating content is probably extremely important, like especially for somebody who owns a business and somebody who wants to like get themselves out there and kind of what they're doing. Like it's extremely important. So
yes,
good camera quality, sound quality is extremely important.
Right. I didn't spend much money on like my podcast mic, and
you don't need to.
Right. And I immediately seen a huge difference, and I'm like, yeah, this was a great purchase. I'm
See, I bought all this equipment, and then I recently started doing interviews like outside of the studio, like going to different businesses and whatnot. So I invested in these little mics that you can just clip on, and the sound quality to those are amazing.
Oh, really?
And they're pretty cheap. And I'm like, man, I should have just did something like this instead of buying this whole all this studio equipment.
I literally was like, when I was looking at mics, I was like, do I just get one of these portable ones so that I can just like, it can be multi-purposeful. It's smaller. It's easier.
Yeah.
And I'm like, maybe, but I'm going to start with this one because it's cheap and we're just going to go with it.
Yeah. So tell me about your podcast. You just started recently. Tell me about it. How is it going? Like, do you enjoy doing it? What's the dynamic of learning how to do a podcast like? I mean, it's been so long since I've started, but what was that like for you?
So I came up with the name first, and I came up with it a really long time ago, and it's called Talk Clutter to Me, and I've always loved the name. I knew I wanted to do something with that name. I just didn't know what it was. I was at a retreat, and a really big influencer, I was talking to her about it because they were getting ready to start up their podcast again. And I told her the name, and she's like, you need to go get that domain name right now. I'm like, really? She's like, yeah, it's that good. You need to get it now. And so I purchased the domain name right then and there, and I started working on it. And it's all about being organized and kind of taking you behind the scenes, behind the curtain on what it takes to become organized and just being real with people. Because I feel like people see all of these influencers and organizers on Instagram and TikTok, and they're like, oh, that's so unachievable. It's so unrealistic. Like, why would you take rice out of the container and put it in this other random container? And I tell people, I'm like, you don't have to do it. It just works better for this and this reason. And so I like to bring people behind the scenes and give them a real life, hey, this is why people do this. And you don't really need to fold all your underwear or socks if you don't find it fun. You don't need to. I don't. I'm probably the only organizer out there that's going to tell you I don't fold my socks and I don't fold my underwear. They just get thrown into a drawer.
So do you match your socks up, or do you mismatch them? Do you wear them mismatched?
I have all black socks.
Oh, okay.
So I have in my drawer like drawer dividers. So like this middle section is all my socks, but they're all black. So I just need to grab 2 socks and head out the door. I don't look. I can literally grab 2 matching socks. But I'm like, you don't have to fold your socks if you don't want to. And it can still be organized.
See, my daughter, she's so particular with her socks. I feel like maybe I'm particular too. I match them all up, even though they all match. So I guess that makes no sense. But my daughter, she doesn't like them like when you roll them together. Mm-hmm. So it's like a ball.
Yeah.
She wants you to like lay them flat because she has socks that you have to match. Like they have like pictures and whatnot on them. So she wants to lay flat and like flattened out. I'm like, this is a lot of work.
She wants them laid flat, and then you can like tuck one inside the other so it's not like rolled into each other, and then it's like a little rectangle. So you could do that.
That's a good idea.
Yeah. But I'm not the kind of person that folds my socks. If a client wants me to fold socks, I'll fold the socks. But not that kind of person.
So how did you get involved into that? I mean, because we were just talking, you said that you worked in the auto industry for a while.
Mm-hmm.
How did you get involved in the decluttering of people's houses and businesses, and why would you want to do that?
That's a great question. Why would I want to go do that for other people?
By the way, that's your water.
Thank you. So I used to work in automotive, and actually I helped establish the plant, the Magnet Exteriors plant here in Lansing. And there I learned about lean systems and 5S. And that's kind of just automotive term for like the automotive way of organizing things for the least organized person, pretty much. And
wait, the auto industry is organized?
It can be. If anybody works on the line, if anybody like works on the floor, they understand that there are some organizing systems. They might not notice it at first, but there are systems that were pre-built for them for them to know exactly where the broom goes without having to overthink it.
Yeah.
And I fell in love with that kind of system. Is like, how do you make things super easy for everybody else so that the stupidest, least organized person knows where the broom goes? And so I took that and I put it into my own home, actually. Like, I labeled where bowls and plates went inside my cabinet, and people teased me relentlessly. My friends and family did, but nobody ever put the bowls and plates in the wrong spot, ever. They always went in the right spot. And so I then found out about Marie Kondo and from Netflix. She had like that Netflix show. And I was like, wait, people will pay me to do that? Like, I love doing that, but people will pay me to do that. And along the way, I just kind of trickled into it because I was hating kind of my job, and like I transitioned from automotive to nonprofit world, but I was also not happy with my job. And so I was like, well, let me give this a try. And I started falling in love with it.
Wow. So when did you start the business?
I started the business about 3 years ago. Yeah, about 3 years ago, right before the shutdown, right before the pandemic. And so I didn't touch the business for about 1.5 years. So I've really actually been doing the business full time for about 2 years now.
Wow. And so since you started the business, obviously you had 1.5 years of not doing anything, but since then, what is it? Has it been successful? What has it been like?
Yeah. So, let's think here. 2020. So then 2021, around summer of 2021 was when I was like, okay, we're going to get moving on this. Because I wanted to eventually quit my full-time job that I had. I loved what I did, but I didn't like the people I did it for. And so it took me roughly almost 1 year to get to the point where I'm like, I think I can quit my job now. And so we decided in 2022, if we can, for the first 4 months, if we can say, okay, Amanda, you're bringing in this much money every single month, we can live off of this, then we can look at quitting your job. And so I was able to do that relatively easily solo. I started bringing people on then, and I was able to quit. Got to the comfortable part of quitting my job, but I didn't want to leave my full-time job high and dry in the middle of summer because that's the busy season. So what I did was I worked full-time business, full-time job from January 2022 till through August. And then I quit my job August 31st, 2022. September 1st, I was officially on my own.
Wow.
And then my husband had a really bad car accident September 1st.
Oh my gosh.
And so
as in like
he was in the hospital for 2 weeks and off work for 7 months.
Oh.
Yeah. So it was not how I envisioned my first 6 months of doing the business solo was going to look, but we made it work, and we're still solo. I'm still owning my business, still, making it work. Finally getting like everything back under control. Like I felt like so many things were outside of my control for so long, and now I feel like I'm back in control.
So did he recover? Is he?
Yeah, he's healthy now. He's he started CrossFit probably last month, so
nice.
He's trying to build back his strength and everything. But yeah, he's doing much better now.
That's awesome. Yeah, car accidents can be very dangerous.
So dangerous. And I was so fortunate and lucky to have so many like friends and family members help us. And so I don't think I could have gotten or could have kept the business going without their help.
Oh yeah,
Because
absolutely.
I was like, I literally I'm like trying to get the business to a point where I'm like working on it. That's my main thing. And then this happened.
Oh, that's so frustrating and sad and everything. Now, when you go into somebody's house or to a client for the first time, what is the process like? How do you know what to do?
So the first step is always a strategy session. So I do a 30 to 45-minute strategy session where we talk about their goals and I get to see the space. That's really where all my ideas start to pop up, is when I first am seeing the space and I'm understanding their goals. Some people want a macro level of organizing. They're like, I just want stuff in bins and I want it labeled camping. I want it labeled tools, whatever. Macro, really quick, really easy, bare bones. Micro organizing, we're getting to the nitty gritty details and making sure there's very functional systems for the smaller things that you do. So figuring out that process, and then I think of product I can bring in. I usually will brainstorm, like, here's what I want to do. I want to bring in a cube organizer over here. We're going to put some bins in there. It's going to store your paper like this. I start to bring in some different ideas, and it's just kind of based on what I'm seeing. I like to reuse things they already have. So if I see something's not being utilized very well, I'll try and figure out a way to make that work. Client wanted to get rid of a desk in her basement once, and I'm like, no, I don't want you to get rid of that. I actually want to repurpose it, and I repurpose it into a gift wrapping station.
Oh, cool.
So
wow. So how do you keep up with like modern trends and everything? I mean, because obviously things change all the time. How do you keep up with that?
Lots of Instagram and TikTok. It's part of my job to be on Instagram now. But yeah, Instagram and TikTok give me lots of great new ideas, because I'm giving other organizers awesome ideas too, but they're also giving me these great ideas. I'll just go shop and walk around the Container Store every now and then, which is an organizer's dream. If you've never heard of the Container Store,
yes,
it's amazing. I probably don't walk out of there spending anything less than $200 anytime I'm there, but it's because I find so many new and interesting products that I'm like, wait a second, what if I used this riser for this instead? Or there's millions different products in there. So
do you do it on a like a base to base thing? Like you don't go and just stock up on stuff. You just decide, like, I'm going to go see this client's house and then try to figure out from there what they might need specifically, and then you go and get that? Or do you keep stock of things?
I do keep an inventory in my garage. I've taken up roughly half of our garage, and my
sure husband
loves it. I've taken up roughly half the garage of inventory, but what I keep on hand is the things that I know I trust and I use a lot of. The things that are maybe like unique, I'll buy on a case-by-case basis. I had a client recently who needed a very unique kind of shoe organizer that went over her door, but it was for shoes that were a bit bulkier. So it wasn't something that I was going to be able to find at like Target, so I had to do a little bit more searching for.
IKEA.
IKEA is also wonderful. They have so many things.
That's where we shop a lot for things, various things.
And what's really nice about IKEA stuff is most of their things you can repurpose into different ways too. If you're not using that cube organizer for your entertainment center, you can use it as a secondary desk storage area with paper storage in there. And
right.
You can use it for toy storage.
Yeah.
IKEA stuff is really multi-purposeful.
Yeah, it's really nice. I actually just built recently. We have these cube, like I think they're like a single stack. There's like two of them, two bins, and they're like, we use them for toy bins. But then, how many did we have? I think we had like, maybe there are 4. Yeah, they lay sideways like this. Sorry. Anyways, I just built a guinea pig cage, and I put the guinea pig cage on top of it. I can show you when we're done. And so like it kind of like repurposed as like this storage for the guinea pig cage. Like all the stuff for the guinea pig goes in those bins, and then the guinea pig cage is on top of it.
Oh, 100%.
It's kind of cool.
I love using the cube organizers that way. That's probably one of my favorite tools to use is the cube organizers. And you got to make sure they're the 13-inch cubes, though. And my number one reason why for them to be the 13-inch cubes, not the 11. The 11 are the cheap ones, and they're really flimsy. The 13-inch ones are a lot more sturdy, no matter where you get them from. But you can, the bin that fits in there, you can put organizers inside the bin to hold paperwork, because it can hold papers and hanging file folders if you put the right organizers in the inside, and then it's really cute. But then it holds more for toys. It holds more for whatever else you're storing. But I love that. And even my son's room, we use the top of the cube organizer as a secondary play area.
Oh, okay. Very cool. Yeah, I can imagine what it'd be like to live with an organizer.
My husband loves it. He's very ADHD. If it's not in his direct line eyesight, he doesn't really know it exists, whereas I want everything hidden away.
Right.
So it's been in the 10 years we've been together, it has been a very fun experience to figure out how to balance our two crazies.
That's funny that you mention how in the auto industry they have a specific way of organizing things, because I mean it's the same way at General Motors, where they call it WPO, workplace organization, where you literally, like the team leader's desk, you literally put tape around the dumbest things, like stapler or like hand sanitizer, or like, and you box it all in. I'm like, this is so dumb. Like, why would you, I've always thought it was dumb. I'm like, why would you do this? But that's actually a good point, is like for the dumbest person.
Exactly.
You know where things go.
Exactly. And I literally, a week or so ago, I actually was able to do this specific process you're talking about for a client. And I always wish that more clients who need visual organizing would let me do this, but not everybody does. And there was a spot we'd put the broom on the wall in the garage. And she's like, my mom's not going to know where the broom goes back once it's gone. Can we put like an outline or something around? I'm like, yes. And I was immediately excited. And we pulled out a Sharpie and it just drew on the wall the outline. So immediately when you pull it away, you know, this is the only thing that matches that shape. We're getting down to 1-year-old, 2-year-old level. We're like, does the shape match? It matches. Let's go.
You'd be surprised. There'd be people that would still screw it up.
I'm sure. And then the team leader is like, come on, that's not even the right shape.
Oh my gosh.
But yeah, so I took that love of 5S and lean systems and trying to make things streamlined as possible to be most efficient. I took that, incorporated my my love for interacting with people, asking open-ended questions to get to the root problem, to help make people's spaces functional and organized for the way they live.
What is the root problem of somebody not being organized, would you say? Like, is it just that they don't know how, or is it just that they've never, is it that they don't know how to be organized?
Some people, it varies. It varies. For a while there, after my husband's car crash, I was very, very unorganized, and my space was not organized either. And so the reason for that was because there was a big life change in my life. There was a big event that just had happened that it was completely out of my control. For some people, they were never taught how to be organized, or the life they grew up in was always in a constant state of disarray. So that's just kind of what they grew up knowing.
Right.
And some people just want to be organized. They just don't know where to start, and they don't have the resources to do that. And they're the kind of people that love to just, they binge watch Clean Talk or organizing TikTok stuff. And they're like, oh, I love this, but I just don't know how to do it.
Right.
So yeah, that tends to be the thing. Or they'll read a book and they think that there's one way to be organized, and because they need the visual organizing, they can't be organized.
Right.
And I flip it on its head. I'm like, everybody can be organized. You just need the system that works for the way your brain works instead.
So how do you determine how somebody needs to be organized? I mean, do you sit there and just ask them questions? What is the process for that?
Yeah, that strategy session that I do, it's a lot of open-ended questions. It's very, very open-ended. Like,
what kind of questions do you ask?
so one of my first questions is like, what's your goal? Because one person's goal is going to change how fast we go versus how slow we go, to make their goal achieved. The other thing I asked is, are they out of sight, out of mind? So my husband is a great example of that. Again, if it's in a cabinet, he doesn't know it exists because it's not in his line of sight. Some people...
That could be a good thing.
It could be a good thing. Some people are like kind of in the middle, like they're out of sight, out of mind, but if it's labeled with the word, they can do it. Some people prefer pictures. So it's a lot of like getting down to the nitty-gritty of what's worked before for them, what hasn't worked before, and kind of what their natural state is. And then I take note of kind of where things are already kind of laying around. Sounds really weird, but I take note of that because if like the book bags tend to just naturally be in this area of a room, I'm like, okay, they need a spot, an organizing system for their bags right there because that's where they naturally put them. I'm not trying to move their bags to a totally different area.
Right.
I want to try and make it as streamlined and easy,
functional,
where the mess is already being made.
Right.
And so it's a lot of just looking and seeing kind of what's happening.
I see you judging me. I see you judging me.
Just some hooks, whatever.
Yeah, no, that's actually extremely important because like I've gone to so many people's houses. I'm like, what is going on here? Like, I mean, my stuff hangs up generally. Like my lunch bag and everything I need for like everyday use is usually like hung up. You pass it on the way down, but like some people, you go to their houses and they just have things thrown. Like they don't take care of their things. And it's just, I guess maybe it's because they don't know where to put it, where it would be functional, where it would be easiest.
Yeah, that's really the thing is for a lot of people, when they start to get into that mindset and they're thinking like, this isn't working or I don't like this, but like they want it to be perfect. That's probably one of the biggest barriers for a lot of people to even ask me questions to begin with is there's this barrier of I need it to be right the first time. I need it to be perfect. And that's the problem is like if they're trying to do it on their own, they have to get that out of their mind. Mm-hmm. It's not going to be perfect the first time, but you just got to make little steps. Yeah. Progress over perfection, really.
Well, and you got to figure out like what works because like even if you do it yourself or you pay somebody else to do it, it might not be right the first time. It might not be functional for you specifically. Like, I mean, my wife and I have changed so many things in the house just because like it doesn't fit or it doesn't seem to work right, you know? And so we just redo it.
Yeah, you
just find a different way.
I think we've done our garage. We've done a whole reorganizing of our personal garage, I think twice now. We've had it for probably 2 years. We've done one every summer now. But it's because lifestyle changed. Mm-hmm. So having my product in our basement wasn't working. I needed to find space in the garage.
Right.
So then we had to bring it all up. Now, what's the garage look like? Okay, this isn't working because of A, B, and C. We're living in it. And then we decide, okay, this isn't working. How do we fix these problems? Oh, we just have to move this over here. And then that fixes all of that problem.
Right.
Okay.
What is the coolest organization that you've done?
Ooh,
Do you have any pictures or anything of it?
So I love, so there's 2 things I love to organize most in my life. And one is garages, actually. I have a huge hands-on working knowledge of tools. And so I love doing garages and tools specifically. I'm actually a keynote speaker in September for the American Society of Professional Organizers and talking about organizing garages.
Really? Where's that at?
That is in Orlando.
Wow.
So I'm going down there, spending a couple days, but I'll be a keynote speaker on that. And Very so garages cool. I love. And there is a garage recently. I was on WILX, super recent garage that I recently did. And it is probably one of my favorites because I was able to put in so many different customized systems. And they had so many different kinds of stuff. So it wasn't just a storage garage. Like the one guy loved bikes and she loved gardening. And they had a dog and they had kids. there was so many different things. And so I was able to put so many different kinds of systems together for each person, really.
Are there specific systems that you typically stick to, like garage systems, or do you just find...
It's really customized to that's probably the other thing that makes me a little unique. I feel like everybody sees these garage systems that you can spend thousands of dollars for, which are beautiful, and they're highly customizable. So you can literally move hooks around. I like to organize garages without those a lot of the time. And so I use what's already there and I just add stuff to it. That's really what I like to do. Like for this garage that I'm talking about, he's a huge bike lover and he has so many wheels, like bike wheels, different kinds. And they were just stuffed on top of a shelf when we got there. I installed hooks that mounted from the ceiling so that he could put his bikes on those bike wheels on the hooks and get to them so easily, and they were off the shelf.
That's cool.
And it looks really, really cool in there.
So is there video or footage of this?
Yeah, so WILX, Studio 10 did an interview with me where I kind of went around the garage, actually.
Let's see if I can find it.
Yeah, so find that. And so I love doing garages. I also love my garage because there's so many different kinds of tools in my garage. And so I get to really get very nitty gritty with the tools. We actually do team trainings, and I'll have people come into my garage to learn more about garage organizing when I have new team members.
How many people do you have working for you?
I have one full-time and one part-time right now. And
is it on your website, by the way? Is this on your website?
It should be on my website, yeah. So if you go to my website and you easylifeorganizing.com/media should take you to all the media stuff that I've done. And I think the WILX interview should be one of the top ones.
It is.
Nice.
So, I'm sorry, you said how many people work for you?
I've got a full-time, a part-time, and a virtual assistant. So I've got 3 people that work with me on a few different things.
That's exciting.
It's really exciting.
You went from just you over a year ago, or about a year ago, to now 3 people or 4 people.
Yeah.
That's insane.
It's insane. And I'm really, really thankful for the team I've had. I just had somebody kind of transition off the team, but I'm going to miss her so freaking much, but she's got bigger and better things that she needs to do.
Yeah, everybody has to move on, right?
No, it makes me sad.
All right, let's play this video. If it will play.
But yeah, so garages are my number one thing. Oh, look.
Oh, why is it not playing audio? Hold on, I'm sorry.
Oh, you're good.
Okay, hold on. I don't know if the Bluetooth is hooked up. I need you to come do my garage.
No problem.
My garage is such a mess.
What's crazy is I love doing garages, but it's a seasonal thing. I don't do garages once it gets too cold or it starts to snow consistently. I stop doing garages at a certain point.
What's that point? Like fall?
Toward the end of fall. Because normally like a hoodie and a jacket is fine for a little bit. But if it starts getting to be freezing or snowing, because we have to pull everything out. So it being wet, we can't pull everything out. I was able to do a garage back in January, February, but she had a ton of open space in her garage and it was slightly heated. So it worked out really well.
That's awesome.
On our hand, and what better way to use it than by organizing?
Yeah.
Especially in spaces right here like this garage, which at first can seem very overwhelming, but Amanda from Easy Life Organizing is going to make it a lot easier. Amanda, we're standing in the after right now, but I want you to walk us through the before.
So the before, imagine this, like where the bikes are right now, just a kind of a heaping pile of random stuff. Where the toys are at, super big piles. You didn't know what was back there or what was underneath and everything. Tons of clutter back in the corner. And imagine this, like, you know you have something, you just don't know where it's at. And so then you have to go to the store and get a new thing. And then eventually you find it again. And so organizing the garage makes it to where you don't have to go back out to the store again.
Wow.
So Amanda, show me what you did right here with these bikes.
So this area has to be one of my favorite parts, honestly, because this specific person here loves bikes. As you can see, they own 6 bikes in of itself, 8 bikes, plus tires. So what we did is we got an adjustable bike rack for them. So as they grow and shrink the number of bikes they have, they can actually take segments out of it to grow and shrink the rack itself. So this makes it, again, accessible and easy for them specifically. He likes to do his own bike maintenance. So over here, what we've done is we've actually labeled each of these bins with the different items that are in it.
Now, this was the his side. Now let's move on over to the her side of the garage.
Yeah, so her side, she loves to garden. So we have tons of like gardening tools. Originally, we're just thrown up against the wall over here. And I'm like, no, we gotta get those off the ground, put them up on the wall. This little thing was my little surprise to her. It's actually a toolbox. So again, I like to take things and just use them in different ways. Inside of this is her everyday like gardening tools that she would just take out there.
All right, well, let's move on over because I know we've done some work here at the charging station. What does this look like?
So what this was originally is these chargers were actually sitting on top of their chest freezer. And so think about this, like you come out and you need to grab some meat out of the chest freezer and now you gotta move all of the chargers off of it. It's not working. So I took all of the chargers and put them all over here. So I got 4 different chargers for different batteries of different things she uses. So now they're all here, so when you know you need a new battery, you know there's already gonna be one charged up on the charger.
Now let's move over to the kids section,
Yes.
because we know that sometimes can be a big reason as to why there is a lot of clutter and disorganization in a home. And the more kids, the more clutter.
Tell me
The
about
more
it.
kids, the more clutter, and even more so with this home because of where they're situated. This home is actually, they have a lot of kids that are here in this area that they play with other kids. So it's so important to make this super accessible. When the kids know that they're gonna go play soccer, they know it's probably in that balls bin. If you can get stuff out with one hand and put it away with one hand, that is the best case scenario for everything.
Amanda, if somebody wants you to come to their home or to their office space.
That was pretty cool.
Yeah, I love doing garages. I guess I'll have to send you some pictures of like my tool system because they don't have very many like everyday hardware-y kind of tools, like just general handy tools, but I do. And so I have like a whole setup in my garage for that. But so garages are my number one thing that I love doing, and I love organizing for nerdy people because I am a nerd at heart. I was actually at the Capital City Comic-Con right before I came here.
Cool.
And it's just, I love organizing for nerdy people. The dice, the board games, the figurines, all of that. I love that. So I actually had a client and we were able to organize, and she's like, I want like adult nerd vibe throughout my house. And like, it's all kind of just shoved into one area, and it's not like adult nerdy. It's too in your face. And I'm like, okay, well, we're going to spread it out. We're going to do this. And we were able to turn her home into something that she's like really proud to bring her friends over for game night for.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. I could imagine that. I mean, for a lot of people, organizing their house and getting things back to the way like that they want it probably helps them so much with like mental health and just being able to feel like they can live like comfortably.
Yes. So on my podcast, I talk about the 4 different kinds of clutter that take over our lives, and they're physical, mental, emotional, and digital clutter. Digital is a newer one that not very many organizers are tackling yet, but I do. So
Can you explain that? What's digital clutter?
digital clutter. So we have laptops and phones and tablets galore. Galore. Some of us are like me and have multiple emails.
Yeah, that's me.
So And what happens is we just get so used to seeing either that really large red number that tells us how many unread messages we have in our inbox.
Must have seen my phone.
Or the thousands of documents in your download folder on your laptop. And we don't, because it's not across our desk, we tend to ignore it. But it's eating up space on our storage systems, whether that's your Gmail or your actual hard drive on your computer or your cloud storage. Is eating up space that you could be using otherwise. People tend to come to me once they're getting close to their limit of storage for the digital organizing, or they want to go from paper organizing to more digital, and they just don't know how, or their inboxes are out of control, and they're like, I don't have a system. Everything's just in the inbox.
So how do you do that?
So a lot of times, so email, for instance, I have two different options. They can take my course that I have on my website, and it's more of a self-paced. They can just do it in their own free time. I give them a number, like for every X amount of emails you have in your inbox, I would set aside this amount of time. Or they can hire me to do it.
To just go through and delete?
I go through and I sort, I delete. Oh, I don't delete. I put it into a folder that I label as delete, and then you can delete it. I don't want to delete anything.
Right.
So I put it into a folder, and then you delete when you're ready. I'll unsubscribe from places you don't want those emails from anymore.
How time consuming is that?
So it gets pretty time consuming, depending on how many emails and how organized your inbox already is.
Yeah.
But then I give you the steps of, okay, here is now how you're going to utilize your email. Here are these folders. Here's how you're going to utilize your inbox now, to where if you have more than 50 emails, this is going to start to feel very overwhelming now, because we're always trying to get back to inbox 0 as much as possible.
Right.
So.
Wow. I never even thought about that, having somebody declutter your email for you.
It's starting to become more popular, and I'm learning more and more that I'm one of the only people that will work on digital organizing. Actually, like I have other organizers who will refer me for the digital organizing, because they'll find random people that want that.
Yeah.
And they don't know or want to do it. And so now I'm kind of becoming that go-to person for the digital stuff.
Well, I definitely should hire you, because I have thousands, like probably 8,000 emails that I haven't deleted.
I just did somebody's email, and I think every single month there was easily 500 or 600 emails for every single month. And I was going back a couple years.
Wow. So the majority of that's spam mail, right?
Some of it's spam, just those stupid things you always get, those advertisements, but some of it's important stuff. And so as I'm going through, I usually ask a bunch of open-ended questions again at the start of it to figure out what is important to keep, what kinds of things am I going to come across, what kinds of things is not important anymore. I'll usually ask how far back do they want to be able to access their emails. For me, I keep about 2 years in my folders, and then every January I delete the other year.
Okay.
So I figured out that, and the system really is really easy once it's all cleaned up.
Yeah. Yeah, you just keep it cleaned up.
You just keep it cleaned up, but the way that you use the folders, the way that, because every email has a search bar, every email has folder capabilities, whether you can do subfolders or not. Every email has like the flagging or the star feature for the really important stuff. And if you can utilize those techniques, you can have a very organized email.
Now, for somebody who does this professionally now, what kind of role has it taken a part of your life? Like, does it help you tremendously to stay that organized, or is it difficult for you to stay organized because you're working on everybody else's organizations?
I'm going to be very real.
Be
with
real
you right now.
Be real.
Okay? I am a hot mess. I personally am a very hot mess sometimes. People always ask me, your house must be pristine because you're a pro organizer.
I never think that.
No, it's not.
No.
It's not pristine. The difference is it takes me 15 minutes to get the house ready for somebody to come over.
Yeah.
Right? I have a husband. I have a 3-year-old. I have a dog.
Yeah.
Dog aside, he's a husky, so my house is never truly clean.
Yep.
But it takes me 15 minutes to get everything back because of the systems I have in place.
Right.
Right. Sometimes I fall behind just like everybody else. Sometimes I fall behind on my mail systems or my paperwork systems. Sometimes I decide I don't want to do the dishes every single day. And so I fall a little behind, but I just have to take that second and be like, okay, man, you got to get back into it because you're starting to feel like you need to catch up when you should be pulling everybody behind you. I'm starting to feel like the lackey.
Right.
And I'm like, okay, I got to get myself back in order every now and then.
Yeah, no, I completely get that. I have a cousin who owns a pretty successful cleaning business in near Charlotte, North Carolina. South Carolina, I believe. She lives in South Carolina, but it's like right there on the edge. And she was like, everybody tells me like my house, it must be the cleanest house ever. And she's like, I just don't ever have time to clean my own house. And so, yeah. So now like whenever somebody owns a cleaning business or like an organization business, I'm like, they are probably really good at what they do. They're really busy, but their crap is a mess.
Yeah, it's my office.
But I understand because you're busy. Like it's hard to stay organized.
It's so
and clean.
hard, but I think the difference is for every cleaner, for every organizer, for junk removal companies, the whole 9 yards.
Yeah.
We have our stuff's kind of a mess in of itself, but it takes us significantly less time to get it back to where it needs to go because we already have the knowledge, the resources, and everything to do that.
Right.
It takes us significantly less time.
Yeah.
So yeah, right. I recently got our mail system back in order. I'm like, look, now I have a giant pile of things to file. I'll do that. It's okay. But like I have the pile and it's organized and it's not spread across my desk.
Right.
Right. So that's the thing is I have my system. I haven't done my very specific task of filing it.
Right.
But I know exactly where it's going to be filed and it's not going to take me an hour or multiple hours like some people it takes to get their paperwork organized and filed away. I already have the system, so I already know.
You just got to do it.
I just got to start plopping papers in. That's all I need to do.
Now, you're obviously really busy. You have the business, you have family, you have kids, but you're still finding time to remodel a bus. What is the thought process behind that? What is the purpose for remodeling the bus, and what is your goals for it? Like, what do you guys plan on doing?
So we purchased our bus. Her name's Epona because we're huge Legend of Zelda fans, and so we named our bus. Yeah, we're the nerds. We're real nerdy. So her name's Epona, and we purchased her back in 2021, like kind of during-ish the pandemic. Yeah, because my son was already born and we hadn't quite moved back up here to Lansing. So 2021, and we've always had this dream of living in a tiny home. And we love living minimal. And that was a really big thing, was van life and bus life was really, really popular back in 2021 because of the pandemic. Because people were like, well, I'm just going to go live on a bus and travel the country instead of being stuck in my house here in Lansing. And so we bought the bus and we decided we want to do it all of ourselves because we're very handy people. And so we started working on it. We ripped out all the seats and we had to convert, and we found out my husband's a little tall, so we had to hire somebody to actually come cut the bus in half horizontally to raise it up so that it's taller. Actually, I think the inside is actually taller than my house.
Wow.
Ceiling. Like at this point, I have a very small house as well. But we want to live on the bus. We want to live minimal. We want to save some money. And we want to just customize this to where it's 100% us. So, like, yeah, as you can see, like, it's going to be Legend of Zelda themed, the whole 9 yards. I have a vision for what the inside's going to look like when it's all said and done. But we're actively working on it.
So do you plan on selling your house and living in that full time?
We plan to rent the house and turn it into a rental and then live in the bus full time is the goal.
So where would you, I mean, because would you have to stay at like a campground or something? Like what is?
So there's a couple different ways that people can do this. So one is you stay at a campground, but that tends to be kind of expensive because you have to pay for your nightly fees.
Right.
Most people end up moving out west with their vans and their buses because more out west, there's public land that you can just pop a squat on and just stay there. for however long you need. Out east and by us, there's not a whole lot of public land to do that with.
Right.
So our goal actually is, since we are so handy, is to buy homes and flip houses. Buy a house, flip it, sell it, and while we're renovating said house, live in the bus, because that is one of the legal ways to do that. Is you can live out of an RV if you're building a house or doing a big renovation to a house. You can live out of your RV, which is what our bus is considered.
That is cool.
Yeah.
So how do you power something like that?
Solar.
Solar.
So there's two different ways. So solar is the main thing. If you just want to try and get free electricity, solar, really good solar panels. The other way is you can install shore power, which is a lot of RVs have the exact same thing, but you just plug into a shoreline and get normal electricity from the normal grid.
Sorry, I want to log into my account because I want to view these pictures, but it won't let me.
I love my little bus. It's a big bus. It's a big 40-footer.
It looks huge.
It is huge, and I can't touch the ceiling of the bus right now after the roof was raised up and we put the sheet metal on. Like, we hired somebody to come and raise the roof, and he welded everything back together, but it was our responsibility to cover it with the new sheet metal. And so that was a really fun experience of drilling out rivets, drilling holes, putting the new sheet metal in, and then using our new rivet gun to do that.
I think there's somebody else that is doing this in Lansing as well. Or
there's
in
a
Grand
couple
Ledge.
buses. So there's a few buses that I've passed in and around this area.
Yeah.
And you can usually spot them. The way to spot a schoolie is going to be...
Schoolie.
Yeah, that's what it's the schoolie community. SKOOLIE is the schoolie community. Way you could spot a schoolie is usually it has to be a different color. Ours isn't painted yet, but it's because ours, to be road legal, needs to be a different color other than yellow.
Really?
So, any schoolie is going to be a different color. It's not going to be the yellow.
Okay.
You're also looking for, some people put decks on the top of their roof.
Yeah.
You're also looking for like just general like curtains across the windows. Ours is going to have like RV windows, so that'll be nice.
That's
ours
cool.
is very, very distinctly going to be a schoolie, but some are a little harder to spot than others.
What is the account called again?
Legend of
That's right.
Liford.
I want to pull it up. It's not coming up. I don't know why. I think my internet's not working that well. Yeah, that's all right.
Yeah.
It's all right. Yeah, no, the pictures look. Yeah, I seen a picture of your husband trying to touch the ceiling.
He's 6 foot,
Yeah.
and he's 6 foot and barely touch it. So
That's
it's
wild.
impressive.
That's really cool. And how many kids do you have?
I just have one.
You have one.
Yeah, we have one, and then one dog right now.
Okay. And it looks like a big bus, so like you'll have plenty of room with you in
Yeah. So our bedroom is going to be in the back, and then there's going to be a little bit of storage. On one side is going to be the bathroom, and then bunk beds for child and maybe one day future child. And then we've got kitchen on both sides, like, and storage space for pantry, and then living room, and then the driver if you're going back to front. But the living room space is going to have like a couch on both sides that can turn into a bed, that can also turn into dining room table. So it's going to be super multi-purposeful.
That's like a organizer's dream.
It's
be able to customize a whole bus.
Oh, I have so many little plans already planned. Like, I already have plans for like the armrest, because you literally need to utilize every single ounce of space inside that small of a space. So like, I even have plans for like the armrest being able to flip up for storing either board games or video game consoles. So like, one will have like our Switch to store in there.
Cool.
One will have like a spot for me to store and charge laptops.
Very
Great.
cool. That's cool.
I'm super excited about it.
So when do you guys anticipate it being done?
We are actively getting back into working on it.
Okay.
Husband's car accident last year kind of put a damper on the fall size
Yeah.
stuff, and then my work has taken up a good chunk of our spring. So we're hoping to get it into a somewhat livable point, probably springtime. That gives us all winter, because right now we can start working on the inside of it. For a while there, we couldn't do anything on the inside because we needed to convert a bunch of the metal and everything and paint over it with rust preventative.
Right.
But now we're at a point where we can actually start doing a bunch of stuff on the inside. We just need to really get the floor done with the subfloor and everything, and then we can really start moving forward.
How do you, because the buses have to be like a certain weight, right? Like it can't be too heavy.
Right.
So how do you keep it from being heavy? I mean, do you use like 2x4s? How are you framing things?
So it's a lot of, we're going to be ripping a lot of wood, and it's not going to be true dimensional lumber like 2x4s. We've got to really be limited in what we're doing, but also having the right thickness, especially in our walls and ceiling, to have the right amount of insulation. So it's going to be spray foam insulation, because we're in Michigan.
Right.
People think I'm crazy because I'm like, I want to live in my bus full time in Michigan. And people look at me like I'm crazy. I'm like, I know I need a lot of insulation.
Yeah, it's going to be insulated.
So it's kind of balancing what are our wants versus what are our needs.
Right.
As much as I would love to have like a nice stone countertop in the kitchen, because then I know I don't have to do a bunch of stuff, that's going to be really heavy.
Right.
And then we got to make sure we weight the bus right. There's not too much weight on the left side versus the right side. And so it's just a little bit more of pre-planning on the front end with the overall design. And
do you have to have it checked over by anybody like officially, or?
I don't think so.
No. Do you have to have a CDL to drive it?
No.
So
in Michigan, you do not have to have a CDL to drive a school bus unless you're transporting people. So when my husband brought the bus from Illinois back to Michigan, he didn't have to have a CDL to drive it. And now, because of the point where it's at in its build, we were able to get it converted into an RV. So it's no longer technically classified as a bus, it's an RV. And you don't need a CDL to drive an RV.
Some of those RVs, I feel like you should. Have you seen some of those?
They're huge.
They're huge. They're like bigger than semis.
I luckily have I have a friend who used to be a school bus driver, and she's told me, she's like, bring the bus by sometime and I will show you how to drive it. And I'm like, I'm really intimidated to drive this thing. My husband drives it. I don't drive it.
Yeah, that would be a little intimidating, I think.
Yeah, it's very intimidating because I'm not good at driving trucks because it's too long.
So do you guys plan on traveling around the country? I know you said you plan on like buying houses and staying there and fixing it up, but do you plan on doing any traveling with it?
I would love to do traveling with it, especially like in the summertime during breaks and stuff, just because then we don't have to fly everywhere. We could just take our home with us. There's no hotel needed. I told my husband, I'm like, I can go to Disney so many more times if we just stay at the Disney RV park. Yeah. We could just do that and save so much money.
Right.
I think that'll be the first real strong test of it, is a trip down to Florida, because my grandma lives down there, but also I love Disney. So
yeah, that would be the best way to do like a family vacation. Cheaper, a lot cheaper.
It's a lot cheaper, and
you can just sleep and stop whenever you need.
Exactly.
Yeah, and cook. It'd be a lot cheaper. I took a trip to Florida a couple years ago with my family, and we stopped, I think, one night at a hotel, and then we obviously have to stop and like get food all the time. But if you could just stop and cook whenever you need, or like sleep whenever you need, and then just get back on the road, it's so much better.
Yeah. And I think that's one of the things that a lot of people don't think about. They're like, oh, I'm just going to travel the country, being all these beautiful places. There's a lot of in-between time that people don't usually think about, which is the stops where you're hanging out in a Walmart parking lot, or you're hanging out at just a general rest stop. Granted, you can have all your normal amenities, but there's a lot of not so pretty parts to living the van or school bus life.
Yeah, I could imagine. Yeah. Wow. Now, is there anything else you want to promote or talk about on the podcast?
I love organizing.
I seen a picture of you doing jiu-jitsu. Are you?
Oh, I do jujitsu too. I do a million different things. Okay, so if I had to rattle off all the things that I do, I'm a mom. I am a wife, a mom, a wife. I'm a professional organizer and business owner. I also have a podcast, which is Talk Clutter to Me, which is super new. I do Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu in my spare time.
Where do you do it at?
I do it at Magic BJJ here
Okay.
in Lansing.
Okay.
Great school. They also have judo classes and yoga classes, kids classes.
Yeah.
I love the school and the owners. What
belt? What color belt are you?
I'm a blue belt, but
Okay.
I've been a blue belt for roughly 3 years.
How long have you done jiu-jitsu?
5 years now.
Okay.
I've been in it for 5 years, and I love every second of it. It is probably my favorite stress relief. One of my favorite stress relievers.
It's got to be one of the best ways
It's
to.
like human chess with your body.
Yeah.
And for those of you who don't know what Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is, it is like wrestling on steroids. And so instead of trying to pin the person, you're trying to choke them or break their arm. But in a controlled, friendly way.
And it's full of love.
It really is.
Yeah, like everybody that most people that you spar or wrestle around with,
Yeah.
they all just like afterwards, you high five and you're like, wow,
Yeah.
that was fun. I had the privilege of going to an event last year in September in Chicago. It's called Roger Up. It was an event with this guy who was on the podcast before. His name's Kevin Ross. He's a Muay Thai champion. And he was a public speaker there. And so I went to go see him speak, and then I got to see all these other people. Well, part of the event was going to the UFC gym across the street and training with some of the world-class jiu-jitsu trainers.
Oh, that'd been so cool.
It was one of the coolest experiences. I have a video of me sparring one of the guys who trains everybody. And he was just toying around with me, but it was a lot of fun.
Mm-hmm.
It was a lot of fun. I want to do it. But
It's so much fun. You should try it. You should check it out, Magic BJJ.
I've been wanting to. I just haven't.
Well, you just need to do it.
Yeah,
I
I
think
just
the
need to.
first week is free. I don't know.
Okay.
They do so many free classes, like to just get into it. They do gi, which is the big, thick uniforms. They do no gi, which is more like what you see in like MMA.
Yeah.
And it is so relaxing, and the community is so incredibly supportive of everybody and everything. I started 5 years ago, and then I had my son. So I started at a different gym down in Monroe, Michigan, Monroe Jiu-Jitsu. And while I was pregnant, I was still able to do jiu-jitsu because I had done it for so long.
Yeah.
And it kept me active, and all of my training partners were incredibly amazing. They were sensitive. They made sure that I was staying safe, and I was smart in choosing my partners
Right.
well.
Right.
I was able to do Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu 7 months pregnant.
Wow.
And I only stopped because I couldn't. I was literally doing positions that weren't like correct. I was so big that I couldn't, and I had to stop because of that. But I would still go to class. I'd watch, take notes. I had my son. I was able to take my son with me when I went back.
That's cool.
And like he would just chill in the corner. I'd start training again. My son goes with me still to this
Wow.
day. He's 3, and he just kind of sits over there. He loves watching us do it.
Yeah.
But he's a 3-year-old, so he runs around a lot. And the community, even at my new gym here in Lansing, I've been here for roughly 2 years now,
Okay.
I think, at this specific gym. And they're so incredibly supportive. I'll be doing something over here, and then one of my teammates is like, "No, Owen," and is like trying to get him to like not like do something he's not supposed to do. So I'm so incredibly thankful for my jiu-jitsu community, because
That's awesome.
they allow me to keep going,
Right.
even with my 3-year-old.
That's very cool.
That's my terror.
That's so cool. I mean, a lot of people, like when you talk about doing jiu-jitsu or joining a jiu-jitsu gym, or I used to be a part of a gym out in Perry. It was called Functional Fitness. And so it was like wasn't CrossFit, but it was just like a lot of like functional type training. And same thing, we could bring our kids, and you just think, when you think about that, you think about like, oh, wow, these are just a bunch of meatheads, or they just want to like choke you out or break your arm. Like, these are just meatheads. But no, they're some of the most supportive people that you'll ever meet.
They really are. I was getting dressed after class. I was getting into my normal people clothes, and I look across the mat. And my son had like ran over to the water fountain. He like wanted a drink, but forgot his water bottle by where I was. And I just seen like one of my teammates picked him up to get him like up to the water fountain level. And I'm like, that's so sweet. Like,
that's cool.
That's so sweet to like help him.
Yeah. I had a girl on that I know. I've known her for a long time, but she owned a beauty salon, and then she also did jujitsu out of her salon. Like, she taught people.
Oh, that's so cool.
And I can't remember. It was like Beauty and Beast or something like that. I think that's what it was called.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. But she's pregnant and just gave birth, so I think she might have stopped that for a while. But
yeah, it's really hard having a baby and then doing like trying to get back into jiu-jitsu.
Did you ever have somebody tell you like, no, you shouldn't be doing that? I feel like people would.
So it was my first OB. When I got pregnant the first time, my first OB was like, no, you really shouldn't be doing that. And it was a really bad OB, not here in the area or anything. And she pretty much like shamed me because I ended up having a miscarriage. She shamed me blaming jujitsu.
Wow.
And I'm like, no, and that's not true. So I found a new OB, thankfully. And she's like, if you've been doing it and you're comfortable and you can do it smart, totally.
Yeah.
And so like, and what's crazy is every time I've been pregnant, I've always like been in the middle of training for a competition, so that I wasn't able to do a competition, and I was really pissed.
My wife, her and I used to do kettlebell competitions.
Oh,
and
so cool.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. And she had an OB tell her that she shouldn't lift weights. And it's like, it's not like that. Like, if you've been doing it, you're fine as long as you're smart about it. You don't, obviously you're not going to push yourself like to where you're going to like miscarry or anything.
Right.
Like,
and even for like so long in that first like half of the pregnancy.
Yeah.
Really, it's like,
yeah,
it's really hard to do any sort of damage, especially, and I had miscarried before the 3-month mark. So there was literally like, there was nothing that I had done.
Right.
But she was trying to shame me for it. And
gosh.
so, but I left and I found a new one, and literally everybody was so incredibly supportive. My team, male, female, across the board, was super supportive. And then even as I was coming back, extremely supportive. And it was really unique and interesting to be in that position where I was coming back, because not only was I breastfeeding my baby, but I was also like had a ton more weight that I needed, that I was used to, and I was so weak because I wasn't doing push-ups. But it was hard coming back, but I'm so thankful I did. And I don't go as much as I used to anymore because I'm so busy, but I wish I could.
Do you have any plans to move up in your belts?
I would love to move up, but I'm not the kind of, I think when I was a white belt, I kind of had this kind of thought and ego kind of that like I wanted to move up fast.
You don't want to be a white belt.
I don't want to be a white belt.
Yeah.
Like, I'm a second-degree black belt in Taekwondo.
Are you?
As well.
Wow.
But it's been a while since I did that, so I just don't even mention it half the time. So I kind of had like this weird ego thing going on, and I don't know why. But I got my blue belt, was super happy and thankful, and I felt like I deserved my, like it felt great to have my blue belt. And then I took so much time off, and then I came back, and I'm like, wow, I don't feel like a blue belt anymore. So I'm really at a point where I'm like, I'm not forcing it. If it happens, it happens.
Yeah.
Like, I'm a 3-year blue belt now, and it's because I've been so inconsistent with my training too.
Right.
So it happens, but I'm good.
It's a good skill to have, though, regardless of what belt you are, to be able to learn how to fight somebody off.
Defend yourself, and know like how to get away.
Right.
That's really what I like was huge for me, is like, how do you get away? Because not only most people, just knowing that information, but as a female who as an organizer, I go to people's houses.
Right.
And so
came into my house, the basement.
Jeez, let me tell you, what am So like, knowing that I have steps that I have taken, like I know where I'm coming. Somebody knows I'm here. Somebody else knows where I'm going to be at. Somebody I know how to deal with things from further away, how to deal with things close up. I have all these steps. Like, your house is beautiful on the outside. House is a little sketchier. I'd be on the phone with my husband when I came to the door.
That's funny.
Sort of things like that to keep myself safe.
That's funny that you say that, because I mean, from the start of this podcast, that was like one of my biggest concerns, is like, especially having like women come on, like just them, and it just being me. And to this day, I always want my wife to be here, because I'm like, if you're here, that kind of gives them like women an ease of comfort knowing that there's a woman here. Yeah. Like they know they're not going to generally get raped and murdered in my basement. But now, like, I've done so many episodes, it's not even a thought I really have anymore. And I hope that many people don't have that thought. But at first, it was like trying to get people to come into the basement to do the podcast. So they're like, "Oh, it's down here." Like, yeah, it's down here. But like, I think that, you know, like you said, having like a nice, like, I don't know, like a nice appearance, it helps.
It does. It weirdly enough does really, really help. And I encourage any women, especially like organizers, cleaners, realtors, people who are going to a house where it might just be them, and it might be the first time they're meeting that person, whatever. Have like a strategy plan of like things to look for when you arrive, how to park your car, the whole 9 yards, to where if something did happen, you kind of have this rundown list. Did I do this? Did I do this? Did I do this? Right. And like from a far away to, okay, we're up close and personal now. Like I have strategies at every single point in time.
That's a really good point. That's something that I don't think most men have to think about.
No.
I mean, like,
unfortunate.
Whenever I meet somebody, I don't ever think about that.
Yeah. And that's the thing, is like I pull up to a house, I'm looking at the house, are there any broken windows? Just like I'm looking at all these things, and I'm like, okay, it looks good. All right, we're gonna go to the door. Is there cameras? Okay, there are cameras. Okay, well, is it just a doorbell camera, or do they have like multiple cameras and they're like being
sketchy?
Like, is it a sketchy neighborhood? Like, I usually Google search the neighborhood just to make sure, and then depending if I kind of get bad vibes or good vibes, I have stuff in my car that I'll usually bring in with me on a first occurrence. Yeah. And I'm like, just in case.
Yeah. No, you definitely need to. You definitely need to. And I mean, to have forms of self-protection is extremely important, even for men. I mean, it's even important.
For men, it's so important, because like you don't know what's gonna happen. Like,
I had an incident happen here at the house where, it was insane. I have a video of it, where this was so long ago. It was probably, my son was just born, so it was 6 years ago. I was on the phone with my wife. I had just gotten home from work. I was on day shift, and she had to run some errands, and so she left. But like prior in the day, she was talking to me on the phone and was telling me about this dog that had been wandering around the neighborhood. Weird, right? Okay. So she leaves, she calls me, she's like, "Hey, that dog I was telling you about is just walking down the sidewalk." And I'm like, okay. So I'm like looking out the window, couldn't see it. I go outside, still couldn't see it. Go to the end of the driveway, still didn't see it. But I'm looking down at the end of the street, and there's this dude who was walking with this girl, and they were kind of yelling back and forth, and he pushed her, and like she fell on the ground. I'm like, on the phone with my wife, I'm like, this dude just like pushed this girl. And I thought like maybe they're siblings and they just got into a little like, right, whatever. And I'm like, okay, that's interesting. Well, then he's seen me on the phone and he starts yelling at me. He's like, "You motherfucker, if I come down, like if you're on the phone calling the police, blah, blah, blah," like flipping out. He's like, "I'm coming down there to beat your ass." And I'm like,
uh-oh.
I was like, "Call the police. I'm going inside to get my gun." And so I go inside, go into my safe, get my handgun out. And I also have a CPL to carry, so whatever. Yeah. Go to the front door. The dude is at my front door, about to open the screen. And I'm like, "You stop right there. I have a gun. I will shoot." And he stopped. And then immediately I pulled up my phone. And I just started recording, because I'm like, if I have to do something, like if he steps in the house, like I think I locked the screen too, just so he, like, extra protection. But you can break
extra
that.
5 seconds.
Yeah, exactly. And I didn't know what the dude's deal was. Like, he was foaming at the mouth when he was talking. I'm like, is he on drugs? Like, what's going on? And it took like maybe 3 or 4 minutes for me to realize, like, okay, this guy's just like special needs or something. And he was, I don't know why he was in our neighborhood, but yeah, he was just at the door, like yelling at me. And like, I'm like, "Dude, just leave. The police are coming." And he wouldn't leave. And he kept telling me, "Just shoot me. Just shoot me." And I'm like, I'm not going to shoot you. Like, if you step in my house, I'll shoot you. But yeah, so then like, I guess my whole neighborhood called the police, and he starts to leave, and he just pees in my yard. He just pulls down his pants, starts peeing in my yard. And then he's like walking away, gets like around the curve, and like 15 cop cars roll up.
Oh my God.
And he takes off running. They start chasing him, and they end up tasing him and arresting him. But yeah, it was like this is a decent neighborhood, and something like that happened. It was like so it's important to have self-protection at all times.
At all times.
You know,
and
whether your beliefs are to have guns or not to have guns, or to have pepper spray or knives or whatever it is, like you need to have something to protect yourself.
Agreed. I 100% agree. And having stuff that is easily accessible, but also, you know, child safety too is a huge thing for some of us. And I think people are like weirded out when I tell them, yeah, I have a bunch of guns at my house. I'm like, what? I'm like, yeah, but they're safe and they're locked away, and they're just for safety, and we know where the keys are. I know how to unload a shotgun. I know how to load it and use it. And they're like, whoa. And they're like, well, you've seen what kind of neighborhood I live in. Like, I don't live in a great neighborhood right now. So, but like, I know that if something were to, I've done a bunch of stuff to prevent that part though. Like I've got even at my own house, I have home security. I know jujitsu.
Yeah.
Like I've got a phone on me at all times. Like I know my neighbors, and they know me. So there's none of that kind of stuff happening. And
And that's one of the most important forms of security for your home, is your neighbors being able to see something's not right and call in the police. And that's what happened in that scenario for me. Is literally, I think like 4 of my neighbors called the police, including us. Like my wife was on the phone, and then she hung up and called the police. And so when all these people called, that's why so many cops came. And it's like, okay. And so we're back. It's still choppy, but I'm not sure why. We'll figure it out.
It'll get figured out.
So you're an an author.
Well, it's soon to be author.
Soon to be author. What is the book about?
The book is I don't have a title for it quite yet. I'm still working on the illustrations. I got the story. It's about being okay with your emotions and being okay to express your emotions. So it's about a girl who, when she shows her emotions, she turns into these different monsters. And she doesn't like that, and she, like, people have treated her differently because of it, and so she tries to hide her monsters. And eventually, throughout the story, she learns that certain people will love and embrace her for her being able to show her emotions and monsters.
Oh, that sounds like a really good book.
I'm so excited for it. I'm not the greatest artist in the world, but I've always wanted to author illustrate this specific book.
Yeah.
But
that's actually a really good idea.
I love it so much, and it's short, it's quick and to the point, and it's hopefully going to allow other kids to be comfortable expressing their emotions, because I don't know why I've always felt like I was emotionally stunted. So I'm not good at expressing emotions myself.
Well, I think it's something that was kind of like pushed upon us, like by society, right? Like, how old are you?
I'm 30. I just
You're
turned
30. Okay, so we're the same age.
Yeah.
And so I feel like that thing that wasn't quite like it wasn't okay, essentially, to be emotional.
Right. And I think that thing that now it's so much more accepted.
Right.
And we've taught our son that he's able to express his emotions, and it's okay to be angry, and it's okay to be sad. We just need to talk about it. If you're angry, it's not okay to hit.
Right.
We need to use our words to talk about it and find ways to speak. So hopefully this book helps others understand, like, it's okay to be different.
That's awesome. So when do you plan on having it?
The goal is this year.
Wow.
It was supposed to be last year. I've been working on it for a long time. So the story first off as Zombie super popular. Started of like why grumpy Mr. Zombie, and it was like trying to figure out why the zombie is so grumpy and going from figure out, ways to make the zombie not so grumpy. But then I felt like I needed more of an emotional time. And then zombies became monsters, and the emotion came in, and that's what it kind of turned into.
That's very cool.
Yeah.
That is very cool.
I'm
excited for it.
Well, thank you.
When you come back, or when that comes out, would you come back on?
Of course.
Yeah, to promote
definitely.
it.
I will definitely come back and promote that because I'm so excited. And everybody I tell about this book, the illustrations are probably like 70% done.
Wow.
That's the thing is I'm getting close to being done. It's not like
so. What is the process like when you are writing a kid's book? Like, do you have to go through? Like, how do you get it published?
So I am self-publishing this
Okay.
book. So I have not had to go through the process of sending a transcript of it to a publisher and saying, here, do you want to publish this? I'm just going to self-publish it through Amazon KDP and just go from there,
Cool.
which is really nice. If you don't know about Amazon KDP, you can just upload whatever book you want, and then they will print on
Oh boy.
demand.
Hold on. Sorry. Something just happened with my... I think it's going still.
Okay. So it will just print on demand when people order the book, which is really, really nice. And they just take a small fee for that. But the process is I had to come up with the idea and come up with drafts of the story is really what I came down to. So I had like the one draft, and then it kind of kept changing and changing the more I revised it and edited it. It just kept evolving, changing. Like this part made sense. We loved this part, but for some reason this didn't make sense or it wasn't flowing right. And I think I've on draft 18 became my last draft of the story. And even then, before draft 1, I had then switched from the zombie. So like I started with the zombie idea first, and then it was like, nope. And then I started with this monster idea. The monster idea, there was more drafts before.
I like the monster idea.
The monster idea is cute. I have different monsters. Each one looks a little bit different. And I've tried to embody the emotion. Like, what does sadness look like to me? And what does happy look like to me? Right. Without trying to, like, look off of, like, other elements, right?
Right.
So that was really fun. And then kind of as I came up with the story, I kind of had an idea for like different pictures that I would use and how it would like look inside of a book. Would it be across the whole 2 pages, or would it be single page, or how would the images work? And then starting to work on those designs.
Is it just you working on this, or are you working with somebody else?
This is literally just me. This has been kind of a passion project. And like I said, I came up with the zombie idea probably like 8 years ago. And roughly 2 years ago, I decided to start on this book. I was going to try and get it done before Halloween last year, but that just didn't work with everything else going on.
Yeah.
So the goal is to get it done this year.
Wow. By Halloween.
Hopefully by Halloween, because I think it'd be super cute with that monster idea.
Yeah, that would be.
Yeah.
That'd be really cool. I'm excited for it.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, I love that you got so many things going on, because I'm also somebody who has like a bunch of things going on, and everybody's like, how do you do them? It's like, I just do it.
I just do it, and it's not like I think people think the same thing of me. Like, how do you do all of that? I'm like, well, I'm not doing all of them always at the same time.
Right.
It's like I'm doing a little bit of everything, so it takes a little bit longer sometimes, or I have to go 100% into the business, and then the drawing and illustrating go to the wayside for a while, and then I pick it back up. So I only have the same 24 hours that everybody else has. It's just how am I dividing my time and my weeks to achieve those?
Yeah, and are you sitting around watching Netflix, or are you working on something that you're passionate about?
Right. We don't have a TV at the house.
Really?
Yeah, we don't have a TV at our house.
I feel like we could just keep going.
I know, right? We really could. We got rid of the TV a long time ago because we didn't want my son to watch TV the first year. Like they recommend. And we achieved that. We even got rid of all of our video game consoles and everything, and getting rid of video games is hard for us. We only just got video game consoles earlier this year. So like my son's 3, so it took us 3 years to get all of, like, even start doing video games again. But it's because we realized so much of our time was being spent on watching TV and playing video games that we could have been using that time for something else.
Right. Yeah, it's one of the biggest things for, it's a huge hindrance for success for so many people. I don't really watch any TV. I think last night was the first time I actually sat down and watched something in like months.
Yeah.
Like, I never watch anything, and I just watched it like a documentary. It was like a 3 episode.
Of course, right?
It was a huge waste of time, but it was I had nothing else to do. I was like mowing the yard, and then it just started raining. I'm like, well, now what?
Right.
And there's always things you can do, like
Yeah.
work on the podcast or whatever. But I don't know. Like sometimes it is beneficial to just sit there and watch something.
It is sometimes really beneficial. I really leave that to the end of the night for myself now. Like I've been trying to be better for myself, take care of myself better. And I know that playing the video games and sometimes binge watching something on Netflix or something is what's going to help me decompress at the end of the night. And so I have been incorporating that back into my life, playing Tears of the Kingdom, loving every second of it. And I feel like I'm not making any progress, but it's so huge. If you've played Tears of the Kingdom recently, you understand that it's just so much bigger than any other Zelda game out there that they've ever created. It's so much bigger.
Really?
Yeah.
I don't know.
If you know, you know.
Well, Amanda, this was a lot of fun. I look forward to doing it again.
Yes, definitely. Thank you so much for having me on. I was going to say us, but
Absolutely. And so if people want to find you, they can find you at easylifeorganizing.com, right? Or .com.
easylifeorganizing.com. You can follow my podcast at talkcluttertome.com. Instagram's Easy Life Organizing, Facebook's Easy Life Organizing. Everything's Easy Life Organizing.
Awesome. And all of that will be in the show notes.
Perfect.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you.
See you, everybody.